So, speaking of California, we recently read that you were engaged again in work over at Hinkley regarding chromium. And on those lines, we're just wondering, what local California environmental issues do you find most pressing, and which ones are you participating with most actively?
Well, we're certainly very active in the situation regarding shale oil down in Carson with all the contamination in that community. So that has taken up many years of our time and been a very important issue about all the pollution from shale and the oil and the benzene that's bubbling up in people's backyard, and they've been told they can have limited time or not play outside at all. I mean, it just blows my mind that we're dealing with these issues in 2013. So that's been one of my priorities in California. The other one has clearly been the situation in Hinkley, California again. It's pretty frustrating to think, after everything we've been through, that company once again kind of hid the truth and, in my opinion, duped the state, and that plume has broken through and been marching on for many, many, many years, and they've created just an enormous environmental disaster, in my opinion. So being back out in Hinkley again has been a priority. Working on the chromium-6 issue and getting that public health goal passed has been a long time coming and a huge issue, and I'm proud of California, for setting that goal and a precedent that I'm hoping other states will follow. Working with the MCL, which has been set, but I think we'll be busy for the next 30 days with some public opinion on that, because we feel it's too high and it's not close enough to the public health goal, so it's in violation of a water law, so I'll be working on that. And, a couple of other things that pop up, we've been looking at the situation out in the valley with Exide and all that lead contamination. We're looking at some issues right here in our own backyard. Appears to be too many brain tumors in a small town. There's obviously pesticide issues that are drawn to our attention out here in California. Mm-hmm. I get drawn back in the situation with Rocketdyne, which is just right over our shoulder here, and communities reporting, too many people with cancer. There's definitely a lot of issues in the state of California.
Yeah, it's interesting, because people think of California, you think, such a green, progressive state, and we were just discussing, how just pretty much right down the road over here, we had, I think, the third or fourth largest oil spill in the history of the world over at Taft.
Absolutely. And I thought you were going to say Rocketdyne and the nuclear meltdown, which was the second. So that's why I held up a number 2. So
another story. So I mean, and they're still flailing from that. Way back in 1910, and people think of oil and gas development. They're thinking Texas, and I mean it's very predominant industry here. And what's going on in the Monterey Shale? Are you involved in the issues there at all?
We're starting to. We're starting to get involved in that, and it is a big issue. And just to bring up, we were involved in that whole situation with Beverly Hills High School, and that case ended up resolving itself. But that is, the oil and gas field and all the directional drilling that went on underneath, and not to mention, the cooling towers sitting on top of the kids. So people don't realize that. I mean, Southern California is the third largest oil reserve in the U.S.
Right.
And because it's underground now, see, I'm very visual, and I think a lot of other people are too. They just don't see derricks, lined up and down like we did in the 40s, and
right.
Everything's underground. So it's like out of sight, out of mind, and they really have no idea what really goes on within the state. And, I've been mapping this. I've been mapping problems across the United States. We're getting ready to put a new map out live, and it's heat censored, and we're going to get communities to start building themselves within that map. But California is covered in red dots of locations that we're dealing with. There's a whole lot of issues going up on the bay, and we've got, things in the San Joaquin Valley, PG&E polluted out there just like they did in Hinkley. You've got similar problems in Bakersfield, 2 issues down in Carson. We were doing Beverly Hills High, and oil problems and nuclear meltdowns, and there's a lot. It's sad.
Yeah. Do you ever feel, a feeling of hopelessness? I mean, how do you keep going on and stay motivated in these issues?
It's hard, but just when I feel hopeless or helpless, I meet another community that's going to get more proactive. And I think what gives me hope is as we keep pushing, we may take 2 steps back, but then we get 50 forward, and then we only may take 1 step back, is that we're all gaining more awareness. And I think, technology has a lot to do with that, because we can now communicate with each other so much better and find each other again through Facebook, that it's helped us kind of rise to the occasion. And that gives me hope, because it's obvious I'm not alone. I mean, there's just millions of us, and doing interviews like this, and having EnviroNews, and Huffington Post being out there, and places to post it, and readership. And I just think it's building a momentum where we're really now taking a look at all the environmental problems and the repercussions and the implications that it has on us as people and our health and our family.